Hello and welcome, adventurers! Today's tale leans a bit into the dramatic end. This story is about the time that during my first completed campaign, that our Bloodhunter got possessed. So, sit back, relax, and grab a snack. I'm Lunar Phoenix, and welcome to D&D Storytime. Now, this story was an overarching one in the campaign at the time. But to set up the larger story, I need to explain a few things first. This campaign was set in the Critical Role world of Exandria on the continent of Tal'Dorei. However, it was set several hundred years previous to the main campaign that had been aired on Twitch. This game also happened to be the one that Avalon and I found after things went sideways with our original DM. If you want more on that particular story, see my video about my worst DM experience. Now, this story began about the 14th session in, or so my notes from the time say. We'd managed to track down a cult devoted to some dark entity in the Ivy Heart Thicket. We also made friends with the local guards that had been residing in a ruined keep in the forest. Now, our group of 4 were a part of the resistance against the Mad King, so we had to keep our affiliation a secret in order not to get killed by our new friends. We leave the keep and chase a group of goblins that had fled an earlier assault we'd led with said soldiers. The final goblin begs for us to be merciful, and he offers to guide us to where the cult is that put their clan up to making trouble in the thicket. The goblin's name was Sig. With his aid, we come to an abandoned church to the Raven Queen. Now, both our paladin and Bloodhunter had ties to said goddess, as the paladin was from her church specifically. So they feel a bigger pull to check it out. We get closer to a graveyard, and the paladin uses divine sense and finds out something is desecrating the land around the church. As we're poking around, we get attacked by a bunch of undead monks. After we clear out these monks, we press on into the church itself, and sitting on the altar is this orb that's radiating dark energy. I played the druid in the group. Her name was Ithel, and she was a half-elf. Being a more zealous druid, Ithel walked right up to the orb and smashed it with her magical mace that dealt radiant damage. She did this much to the protest of the Bloodhunter Corvo, who wanted to study it. Ithel believed that if it was unnatural and twisted nature into horrific reflections of life, that it deserved to be destroyed so that it could no longer harm the world. With the orb destroyed, the land around the church starts to heal. The group meets Corvo's guardian angel, if you can call him that. Aziriel tells the group that the power that made the orb lies ahead in a passage beyond the church, and that we're tasked with stopping this evil. So, after he disappears, we head for the passage. It's carved into a stone wall. We squeeze through it and find an encampment just beyond. We take out a few low-level grunts and find some cool magic items. So, after getting armed and ready, we move on into the next passage, which happens to be the tomb of the entity known as Kaluman the Flesh Eater. The biggest thing we notice is that his sarcophagus is missing. We search around and find the entrance to the Temple of Mephisto just beyond the empty tomb. We sneak in and find a big ceremony going on in the next room. We reveal ourselves to the baddies and toss insults back and forth before the fight finally starts. We won after a bit of a struggle and one of the villains being yeeted off into a bottomless pit. We learned that out of all the dark artifacts gathered there, the book is quite likely to drive a person insane. Of course, Ethel goes a little crazy, trying to smash stuff with her mace and nearly knocks herself and her brother out when she tries to destroy the book with her mace. Yeah, she learned the hard way. You can't smack evil objects willy-nilly without something hurting you at some point. With the book in hand, we trekked back to the keep to meet up with the soldiers that had helped us out earlier. Corvo gets there first, followed by the rest of us. Ethel tries talking with Corvo about the book and everything that had just transpired, and noticed he was a little jumpier than his usual self. After the conversation, we go to sleep. However, Corvo gets a visit from his father, who's the head of his order, in the middle of the night. But Corvo realizes this isn't his father. It's some other entity that is talking with him using the guise of his father. The next morning, our resistance contact, Zuri, arrives to check in on us. We tell him about the book. And to get the big meeting going with everyone, Ethel goes to wake up Corvo, but he mistakes her for the entity he spoke with last night and tries to kill her. Zuri, who was a powerful wizard, used a paralysis spell to stop Corvo. After this, everyone else gets booted out of the room, while Creed, our paladin, and Zuri perform a ritual to contact the entity in the book. As it happens, there was a devil whose soul had been sealed in the book. The devil said its name was Beelzebub, but Zuri and Creed and Corvo point out this is likely not its true name. However, now this devil has attached himself to Corvo and is messing with his head. Now we need to find a way to seal away this devil. Zuri needed to rest and recommended we head northward to Lyrengorn to seek out help from the Church of Bahamut. A few of us head back to Kaimel and rest in our rooms at the local tavern. We speak with the owner about the potential routes northward. He was a retired adventurer that had taken an interest in helping our group. Thus, he told us to avoid the Neverfields and to head for Craghammer and seek out a guild of bounty hunters called the Slayers to get passage through the Underdark. The next morning, we hit the road for Craghammer, and thus the big story of the whole campaign began. Along our way to Lyrengorn, Corvo had to deal with possession by the entity in the book, and we had a hard time keeping the evil of it contained within the lead-lined box the tavern owner gave us. But we had one hell of a time, ending in an epic fight with the devil that resided in the book at the Church of Bahamut. Its actual name was Belial. It was a rough fight, but in the end we survived, and the book was sealed away and kept by the church for safekeeping. But hey, it could have been worse. We could have found the Necronomicon Ex Mortis and summoned a horde of Deadites by accident. Thankfully, that wasn't the case. But I guess the takeaway is, be careful what books you read. Some might try to steal your soul. Evil books, man. What a trip. I hope you enjoyed that condensed version of the epic tale of how our Bloodhunter got possessed by an evil book. And if you'd like to hear the longer version of the story, feel free to tell me in the comments below, and leave a like while you're at it. See you next time!